Happy Friday, everybody. Hope you're having a good day today so far and having a good week. As I'm recording this, it is Monday. So I'm recording this 4 days early, but it was the only time I could find to record while I was by myself. I'm extremely tired. I've been up since 5 a.m. and I didn't get home from work until like 3:30. So I'm very, very tired. And I'm going to try and make this recording as quickly as possible. I don't want to spend an hour talking about this. I want to try and do it quickly. Mostly because I know a lot of people, unless they're really interested in a subject, don't necessarily want to listen to somebody talk about one thing for an hour. You can listen to them talk about several different things in an hour, but maybe that's just me. You know, sometimes I don't want to hear one subject for a very long time. I'd like different things to be talked about. So, anyway, I'm very tired. So, I'm going to try and make this about a 30-minute episode. I'll do my best. So, let's just get right into it. I'll read the daily promise for today. It says, "And he said, the Lord is my rock and my fortress and my deliverer. The God of my rock, in him will I trust. He is my shield and the horn of my salvation, my high tower and my refuge, my Savior. Thou savest me from violence." 2 Samuel 22, verses 2 and 3. Okay, so today I said we were going to talk about evolution, and I want to give some definitions first because I said that we would be talking about microevolution and macroevolution. So, microevolution is a small-scale evolution consisting of genetic changes occurring usually within a single species and over a shorter period of time than macroevolution. So, it's small-scale changes in the history of life, such as changes in, I don't know what that says, frequencies in a population or over a few generations, also known as change at or below the species level, or evolution resulting from small specific genetic changes that can lead to a new subspecies. So, microevolution, I said that I believe in, right? That's, nothing's being added to it. So, like, you can take, let me just show you. Defining microevolution. So it says if you could zoom in on one branch of the tree of life scale, the insects, for example, you would see another, how do you say that? A phylogeny? I don't know. I don't read, I'm not good with science terms. Anyway, relating all the different insect lineages. If you continue to zoom in, selecting the branch representing beetles, you would see another one relating different beetle species. You could continue zooming in until you saw the relationships between beetle populations. Okay, so that's kind of how that works, okay? That's microevolution. Now, macroevolution is a large-scale evolution occurring over a very long period of time that results in the formation of new species and higher-level taxonomic groups. So that would be like apes, and they evolve into humans, right? That's macro. One species changing into a completely different species. That I obviously don't believe in. So, definitions out of the way. Now I'm going to prove to you that evolution is false, not using the Bible. Because then a lot of people say, well, I don't believe the Bible, so can you prove it to me without using your religion? Okay, sure. Yes, I can. So, right here, proof evolution is false even without the Bible. Now, can we prove that evolution is false without using the Bible? Certainly we can. Evolution is a scientific theory that stands or falls on the physical evidence. In fact, one can be an atheist, a person who doesn't believe in God, and still not believe in evolution. Absolutely. I know a couple people that are atheists, but they don't believe in evolution either. I want to say that it takes more faith to believe in evolution than it does to believe that there is a creator, that there is a God that created everything and gave it a purpose. Because you have evidence that there is a God. We are here. The earth is here. Everything runs in perfect harmony. The solar system, the sun, all the stars, the galaxy, everything is gravity. It all works in perfect harmony, right? It's not chaotic. It's in perfect harmony. But evolution means that you need to believe that humans evolved from monkeys. But there is no evidence that evolution is real. There's never been a shred of evidence to prove it. It's just a faith belief, right? At least with God, not a God, but with God, I can see signs, and everybody can see signs that he is real every day. The biggest one, the fact you get up every morning and take another breath. That's the biggest sign that God is here. Okay. Charles Darwin's theory of evolution, as taught at school, is a biological explanation of how creatures have supposedly, quote-unquote, evolved or developed progressively through natural selection and variation, known as mutation, over eons of time, the tiny cell to the largest creatures on Earth today. First of all, I just want to specify that evolutionists believe that the Earth has been here for millions and billions of years. It has not. It's been here about 6,000. That's about how long it's been here. So, I mean, you obviously don't have to agree with that or believe that. But the Bible does talk about how God made things look old for a purpose. There was a reason that he made things look that way. And that's why I think people date things back so many millions of years ago. Because it does look fairly old. It doesn't look like it could only be 6,000 years old. Anyway, what is taught in classrooms is not mere microevolution, small changes within a species, but macroevolution, the change from one type of creature to another quite distinct life form. What many evolutionists are trying to convince you of is that there is no need for a creator since, as they say, evolution can substitute as the mechanism for creating and transforming life. They teach that life arose from non-life and evolved from simpler creatures to more complex life forms. In other words, the tiny cell eventually became an amoeba, then a lizard, then a monkey, and finally, you. And we know that that's absolutely impossible. So you can't add anything to a genetic code. Things can be taken away, but nothing can be added to change from one thing to another. In order to remember key points that disprove Darwinism evolution, the molecules to man theory, we'll use the acronym FALSE. A few of these points also disprove the compromise of theistic evolution, the notion that God employed macroevolution over eons in forming the creatures we see on Earth today. So some people even believe that God is real and that God is the one who instituted the macroevolution. And not to say that he couldn't. He absolutely could, because God can do anything. But it doesn't really serve the right purpose, obviously. That's not what God would want us to think. And it's not true. So, we'll just leave that for that. We're just going to debunk Darwinism here. So, F for fossils. A fossil is the preserved remains of a living thing. The fossil record around the Earth extends an average of 1 mile deep. Below this level, we come up with a blank slate as far as living complex creatures are concerned. I collect fossils of what are deemed the earliest type of complex creatures with hard bodies, or trilobites. I think that's how you say it. No previous ancestors of these arthropods have been found. Similar to some marine bugs we see today on the seashore that disappear into the sand when the waves retreat, trilobites had hard shells, all the basic organs, and complex eyes like those of flies, with hundreds of sophisticated lenses connected to the optic nerve going to the brain. Trilobite fossils are found around the Earth, and in all cases, the level of rot beneath them does not reveal other creatures with similar features. As one source states, quote, the dominant life form was the now extinct sea creature known as a trilobite, up to a foot long, with a distinctive head and tail, a body made up of several parts, and a complex respiratory system. But although there are many places on Earth where 5,000 feet of sedimentary rock stretch unbroken and uniformly beneath the Cambrian layer, not a single indisputable multi-celled fossil has been found there. It is the enigma of paleontological, is that how you say that? I don't know. Fossil studies, enigmas, according to Stephen Gould. So Darwin himself said he could give no satisfactory answer to why no fossils had been discovered. Today's scientists are none the wiser. And this is from Francis Hitching, The Neck of the Giraffe, 1982, pages 26 and 27, if you want to look it up. Question. If after almost 2 centuries of digging beneath all the world's continents, no previous ancestors of this first hard-bodied creature has been found, how then did the ubiquitous trilobite evolve? There should be some previous ancestor if evolution were true. It's like finding an exquisite watch on the seashore and yet never finding any previous primitive models of the watch on Earth. If you reasoned as an evolutionist, you would deny there was a need for a watchmaker at all, maintaining that time, water, sand, minerals, and actions of the elements are sufficient to producing a fully functional watch that runs. This is the part of reason it takes more faith to believe in evolution than in a creator. Exactly. When you put it into the perspective of a watch being able to be created without an actual watchmaker, you can't just put all those things and throw it into a pile and it makes itself. Someone has to do it and put it together and make it work. Further important evidence from the fossil record is the absence of transitional forms between species. Darwin was concerned that the thousands of intermediate stages between creatures needed to prove his theory were not in evidence, but he expected they would eventually be found. Yet those thousands of missing transitional forms are still missing. Another reference explains, quote, if throughout past ages life was actually drifting over in one continual stream from one form to another, it is to be expected that as many samples of the intermediate stages species between should be discovered in fossil condition as of the species themselves. All should be in a state of flux, but these missing links are wanting. There are no fossils of creatures whose scales were changing into feathers or whose feet were changing into wings, no fossils of fish getting legs or reptiles getting hair. The real task of the geological evolutionist is not to find, quote-unquote, the missing link as if there was only one. The task is to find those thousands upon thousands of missing links that connect the many fossil species with one another. That's Byron Nelson, After Its Kind, 1970, pages 60 through 62. So the absence of transitional forms is an insurmountable hurdle for theistic evolutionists as well. It also fits with our next point. A for assumption. When there's no real evidence, evolutionary scientists simply make assumptions. If evolution were true, then where is the evidence of different types of animals now, quote unquote, evolving into other types? Where is the evidence of cats, dogs, and horses gradually turning into something else? We do see changes within species, but we don't see any changes into other species. And as mentioned, we see no evidence of gradual change in the fossil record either. Yet evolutionists continue to assume that transitional forms must have existed. That's the thing. If evolution is real, why is nothing evolving anymore? Why is nothing changing into anything else anymore? It just stopped? Did we reach our peak? Did we tap out? That doesn't make sense either. If evolution is real, shouldn't humans be evolving into something even better? Maybe we should be flying without having to get on an airplane? Maybe somehow we should develop wings? Do you see where that falls short, right? Okay. In Darwin's landmark book, On the Origin of Species, there are some 800 subjective clauses, with uncertainty repeatedly admitted instead of proof. Words such as could, perhaps, and possibly plague the entire book. Evolution is still called a theory. Right, it's still a theory because it's not been proven. A possible explanation or assumption, because it is not testable according to the scientific method, as this would require thousands or millions of years. Evolutionists will counter that a theory is not a mere hypothesis, but is a widely affirmed intellectual construct that generally appears to fit all the facts. Yet evolution in no way fits all the facts available. Evidence does not support it, and in many respects runs counter to it. L for life. The law of biogenesis, as taught in biology class, states that only life can produce life. Right. You've probably heard the famous question, which came first, the chicken or the egg? It's a real dilemma for an evolutionist to answer. An egg comes from a chicken, yet the chicken comes from an egg. How can there be one without the other? To complicate matters even more, the chicken has to come from a fertilized egg that has a mixture of two different genetic strains from both its parents. So the problem of the origin of life and initial reproduction is still a mystery that evolutionary science cannot adequately answer. Yet, for someone who believes in special creation by Creator, there is no dilemma here. First, God made the male and female chickens, which produced the first fertilized egg, and the rest is history. I was about to say that, but I just continued reading. But yeah, so the chickens were created first because God created everything on the earth, all the animals, all the fish, all the birds, everything, humans. And then they made the egg together. So the chickens came first. Age-old question, it was the chickens. S for symbiosis. When one living thing needs another different living thing to survive, it's called a symbiotic relationship. A good example of this is the relationship between bees and flowers. The bees need the nectar from some types of flowers to feed, while these flowers need bees to pollinate them. Both depend on each other to exist and survive. The question for evolutionists is, how did these plants exist without the bees, and how did the bees exist without the plants? Well, they didn't, because God created the flowers and the bees one day apart. Okay? They were always coexisting together. Again, atheistic scientists are stumped. Theistic evolutionists are perplexed as well. Yet if you believe in a creator, you specially created... Let me restart that sentence. If you believe in a creator who specially created the various forms of life on Earth, the answer is simple. Both were created at about the same time. See, I already know what's going to be said because I already know what it is. E for engineering. So all living things are exquisitely engineered or designed. Qualitatively, a bacterium is as majestically built for its purpose as a human body is for its function. Yet evolution says it's only an illusion of design, that there is no real designer behind it. Reality is not an illusion. Living things are multifunctional, which means they do many complex things at the same time. Something evolution with its step-by-step process has never been able to demonstrate. One example of a living thing with exquisite engineering is the tree. It provides breathable oxygen for us while processing carbon dioxide, which would in high amounts in the air be toxic to us. It supplies wood, housing for birds, roots to limit erosion, fruit and seeds to eat, is biodegradable, and gives shade. According to the U.S. Department of Agriculture, quote, a healthy tree provides a cooling effect that is equivalent to 10 room-size air conditioners operating 20 hours a day, end quote. How could something so complex arise from a random, undirected evolutionary process? Again, you need more faith to believe in blind evolution than in an all-knowing creator who designed the marvelous tree in the first place. Now you have 5 proofs that evolution is F-A-L-S-E, and that special creation is true. And we didn't even use the Bible. Remember the acronym FALSE when you read or hear about evolution, and do take time to read our Creator's Great Book of Truth. It has much to say regarding origins. Okay. So let's do the acronym again just so you can remember. FALSE, F for fossils, A for assumption, L for life, S for symbiosis, E for engineering. Okay? Well, this one went kind of fast. Okay, how about we do a part 2? Let's do a part 2. Why not? Let's have fun. It's only been 19 minutes. Okay. How about I prove to you that there's a God without using the Bible? That goes with evolution, right? So I need to prove to you that there's a God to prove to you that evolution doesn't exist and that creation is how we got here. Okay. Proving the existence of God is the beginning of having faith in God. So it is one of the most important goals to establish in our lives. It answers whether we are alone or not as a human race and whether or not our existence has purpose. Can we logically prove the existence of God without going to the Bible? If by God we mean a creator of the universe, then the answer is certainly yes. Specifically, identifying this creator as the Judeo-Christian God of the Bible, however, does require proving and accepting the Bible to be true, which is a topic for another time. Now, by considering certain aspects of the natural world around us, we can arrive at the common sense conclusion there is a powerful, all-wise creator who made it all. Let's explore 5 key proofs of God's existence with clear illustrations to back them up. To make it easier to remember, we'll use the acronym GODLY. They like their acronyms. G for genetics. Let me start that sentence again. The molecular information of genes instructs cells on how to function and reproduce. The study of genetics has revolutionized our understanding of living things and how they operate. So the key illustration is DNA, containing the 3 billion letter code inside our cells of 4 recurring letters or chemicals, actually, the names of which start with these letters. It's a virtual library of instruction manuals for assembling and operating all the cells of the body. I mean, just imagine that. Just imagine. I mean, that's just absolutely amazing when you think about it, truly. A few years ago, one of the world's most famous atheists, Professor Anthony Flew, came to the conclusion that God exists based on DNA evidence. Quote, "What I think the DNA material has done is that it has shown, by the almost unbelievable complexity of the arrangements which are needed to produce life, that intelligence must have been involved in getting these extraordinarily diverse elements to work together. It's the enormous complexity of the number of elements and the enormous subtlety of the ways they work together. The meeting of these 2 parts at the right time by chance is simply minute. It is all a matter of the enormous complexity by which the results were achieved, which look to me like the work of intelligence." And this is from There Is a God. And that was by Professor Anthony Flew. In his book, The Case for a Creator, former atheist Lee Strobel writes, quote, "The 6 feet of DNA coiled inside every one of our bodies, 100 trillion cells, contains a 4-letter chemical alphabet that spells out precise assembly instructions for all the proteins from which our bodies are made. Cambridge-educated Stephen Meyer demonstrated that no hypothesis has come close to explaining how information got into biological matter by naturalistic means." End quote. So, there is no logical explanation as to how this incredibly extensive, exquisite code inside the cell could exist without a supremely intelligent being having designed it. Microsoft founder, actually he's not, he's the Microsoft's thief, Bill Gates noted, "DNA is like a software program, only much more complex than anything we've ever devised." From The Road Ahead. He really stole Microsoft, let's be honest. "It is absurd to think that nobody designed such a complex code. That is simply a result of time, chance, and mutation." Yeah, it's very hard to believe that that's what happened. That by chance, here we are, these humans with brains that are just amazing. That they, like, the short-term memory we can have, the long-term memory we keep, all the things that we can hold into our minds. Like, I'm always amazed at, I can hear a song that I haven't heard in 20 years, and as soon as I hear it, I automatically know the words. I remember it. I recall it. And all the thousands upon thousands of songs that I can remember. It's just, or movie quotes, or, you know, books that I've read. Anything. The fact that we can hold all of that and we still don't have any idea. There's so much we still don't know about the brain. There's so much to learn from it, and to think that just happened by chance, I mean, it's almost ridiculous. Not almost, it's ridiculous. O for origin. If things have an origin, they first needed an originator. The greatest question in philosophy is, why does something exist instead of nothing? Philosophers don't really have an adequate answer, but there is a principle in nature that points to the answer. Everything with a beginning has a cause, and there are no known exceptions to this rule. The key illustration, the universe. Physics and astronomy have established that it had a beginning. For instance, it can be shown that the universe is presently expanding outward from an initial point. So if everything with the beginning has a cause, and if the universe has a beginning, then it must also have a cause that created it, the first cause. Moreover, everything that is caused to exist is brought about by something superior to itself. Therefore, something greater than the universe must have brought it into existence. This is a strong proof that a creator exists. Yeah, the Big Bang Theory, that there was just this huge bang out of nothing, and then we're here because you can't create something out of nothing. You just can't. I have nothing here in my hands. Bam, I have created a model airplane. I can't because there's nothing there. D for design. Everything that has a specific and complex design has a designer. For instance, a building is designed by an architect. No amount of time, chance, and unthinking natural processes can produce a building. In a similar way, we see the exquisite designs of things around us. Right, you can't take a bunch of parts to a car, the door, the motor, the gear shifts, all that, and just throw it in a pile, and then it just makes the car. Someone has to design it and put it together. On Mount Rushmore in the Black Hills of South Dakota, we see the complex and specific design of the faces of 4 American presidents carved into the rock. Wind and erosion can produce predictable designs on some mountains, but not obvious, well-known human faces. History tells us that Gutzon Borglum carved the faces on Mount Rushmore, but even if there were no record of these being sculpted, we would still know that someone designed them and made them. Likewise, the natural realm itself shows evidence of design. Key illustration, the Earth. The fact that so many of the planet's features had to be just right for complex life to exist indicates that a designer was at work. The combination and inner working of such features as are far too complex for them to be the product of mere chance. For instance, the Earth to have life, it had to be just the right size, 8,000 miles in diameter. If it were 9,500 miles in diameter, scientists have concluded it would double the weight of the air. Then there would be so much oxygen turning into water that it would cover the entire Earth. None of the continents would have appeared, so there would be no land-based life, including us. The Earth is just the right distance from the Sun, 93 million miles. If it were just 5% further out from the Sun, the Earth would be too cold and mostly covered with ice. But if it were just a bit closer to the Sun, it would be unbearably hot and the polar ice caps would melt, flooding the coast. The Earth also needs the right rotational speed. If it were just a little faster, the Earth would not be warmed enough, freezing much of the surface, but if it were slower, the heat would be oppressive. It also needs just the right atmosphere, 78% nitrogen and 21% oxygen, the precise amounts to sustain complex life. The Earth also has the correct tilt, 23.5 degrees, allowing us to have the 4 seasons and twice as much arable soil as a different tilt angle would provide. Even the moon is precisely the right size and distance from the Earth for the tides to move the oceans around, keeping them clean and aerated. To find more examples, read the book The Privileged Planet by Guillermo Gonzalez and Jay Richards. L for laws. Where did the laws of the universe come from? They're not matter or energy, but they govern how both operate. There is no intrinsic reason for the laws of nature to exist. In fact, these laws had to be created in place when matter and energy appeared, or there would be total chaos. The laws of the universe require that a lawgiver calibrated them and set them into effect. Key illustration, gravity. So without this force that causes mass to attract other objects, life cannot exist, and the intensity of all the forces must be in precise ratios to one another. The famous physicist Stephen Hawking stated, quote, "The universe and the laws of physics seem to have been specifically designed for us. If any of about 40 physical qualities had more than slightly different values, life as we know it could not exist. Either atoms would not be stable, or they wouldn't combine into molecules, or the stars wouldn't form the heavier elements, or the universe would collapse before life could develop, and so on." And this is Austin American Statesman, October 19th, 1997. I'm assuming it was a speech. So, who caused mass to affect its surroundings as it does to the degree that it does? Who made the laws, the other laws that must have been exquisitely designed and calibrated to work in total harmony? The logical answer, it must be an utterly supreme and all-powerful intelligence. Y for yield. What does believing in God yield? Answer, positive results, especially in the long run. The key illustration, answered prayer. If there were no God, then prayers for supernatural intervention would never be answered. Yet there are so many examples of answered prayer all around us, of miraculous interventions that defy physical explanation. There are simply vast numbers of witnesses of this phenomenon, including this author. This should strengthen our faith in the fact that God exists and that He cares about what happens to us. Thus, proving that God exists is not a matter of blind faith, but of well-reasoned faith justified by hard evidence, for the evidence that there is a God is overwhelming. Remember these 5 key godly concepts and accompanying 5 illustrations to prove God's existence even without the use of the Bible. So there you go. And again, that was godly. G for genetics, O for origin, D for design, L for laws, and Y for yield. So in 30 minutes, I have proven to you with science that God exists and that evolution is false. I like this website, and I think I'm going to do more videos off of this stuff here because it's pretty interesting. Best way that I could prove that evolution is false and that God exists, not the best way, I guess, maybe just, it was already all written out, so it was easy to do. Sometimes, I've said this before, I'm not the best at writing things out to explain things, and maybe it makes sense to me, but when I read it, like, you're looking at me like, I don't know what you just said. So I'm really bad at explaining things. That's why I like being able to find stuff online that, oh yeah, that's what I believe, but I can totally understand that, and everybody else will too. So that's why I do it. Otherwise, that's something I'm trying to get better at, is being able to take beliefs, whether it's in faith or whatever, to take the beliefs that I have and be able to translate that to people where they understand what I'm trying to say. But I'm so bad at that. I can tell you my opinions and how I feel, but to tell you why I believe something is very hard for me to do for some reason. So I'm working on that. Anyway, I'm going to leave this episode here. I did what I came to do, and I hope that you continue to look into this. If you're a person who, is not sure of whether to believe in God or a creator, or, you do believe in evolution, but you're starting to falter on that belief because it's not really providing any evidence to you, or if you're just not sure at all. I hope that you learn something from this and that it leads you to do more research and more study and maybe open up a Bible and read it. King James, preferably, would be the Bible you should read. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this episode, and thank you for hanging out with me. And don't forget to go subscribe to the podcast on Spotify, Anchor, Google Podcast, Apple. You can leave me a review on some of those platforms. And head over to my YouTube channel, and you can watch all my other videos, like and share them. It would be great. Leave me a comment. But I would really appreciate it if you would subscribe to my channel and also hit the notification bell so you know when I upload new videos. I'm trying not to get banned again, so I don't get a 2-week ban. My video for my Monday episode didn't get taken down yet, so that's good. Hopefully it won't. Anyway, I hope you have a good rest of your day, and I'm looking forward to seeing you back here on Monday. God bless.